Justin A.W. Blair here, writer, reader, YouTuber. It's an exciting time right now. It's almost 5 in the morning here at the compound. I've just finished The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe, and I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm on the iced tea, and I'm bringing you the noise. Bringing the noise here. We are going to do a word analysis of the Wizard Knight. What do I mean by that? Well, it's probably not a formal term. I'm not a professional man of etymology. I don't like long commercials in the middle of a YouTube video, so I'll get to the point quick. My own novel, written by me, Justin A.W. Blair, entitled The Haunt on the Island of Esmer, is out, available on Amazon. You can buy it in ebook or paperback format. It is inspired by Malazan, A Song of Ice and Fire, and The Black Company. Epic novels in that vein. Take a moment, check it out. You YouTube, you talk, you broadcast, you speak to the people, and it's let's admit it, there's a parasocial atmosphere that develops between speaker and listener. So I'm gonna bring in with a little bit of knowledge here of one of my former nicknames as a youth. They called me the Wordy Bird. Why? It's because I loved words. That's why I'm going to bring you the words today from the Wizard Knight. Now, what do I mean by that? What we're going to do is we are going to study some of the proper names of places, of the people, the heroes, the warriors, the characters in this book, and we're going to try to understand the choice, the selection of words, and what they mean to the broader story. Now, what we're not going to do is an in-depth analysis of the entirety of this work, The Wizard Knight. Why? Because it's going to take several videos to do that. This is actually kind of a starting point. It may also be the ending point, because I'm not sure that I am up to the task to bring you a full understanding of this book. A magnificent work. Now, if you know Wolfe, if you know Gene Wolfe, you don't have to worry if you have not read The Wizard Knight, because there isn't going to be any spoilers, any sort of plot reveals here that would make the reading of the book less enjoyable. Not really whatsoever. It's a book in a way I'm not really sure you can spoil. I'm whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed, but I am whelmed by the brilliance of this book, and I really, really enjoyed it. That's why I'm on the iced tea and bringing you the words here. Okay, Justin, you say, okay, get on with it. You say, what do you mean an analysis of words? Well, first I'd like to go through and show you how the vast majority of this book is rooted in Old Norse, Northern Europe, to a lesser degree Western Europe, which is a common setting for fantasy, which we're all familiar with. But there are just a few outliers in terms of names of places and people which call back to a different civilization and a totally different etymology. And that's a mystery to me. We need to talk about why that is, why the choice was for this. And we're going to do this by going through the 7 levels of reality that are portrayed in this work. Now, first, let me hold this up for you. I have the paperback 2-volume set. This was apparently published in 1 volume also. The Knight and the Wizard, collectively known as the Wizard Knight, not the Night Wizard. In this book, there are 7 levels of reality. We find our characters in many of them. I will not tell you how many, because that could be a plot spoiler. Dear listener, dear viewer, I will do you the favor of editing out me drinking my iced tea. It's loud. No one wants that. I may look brutish in my visage, but I am not brutish in manner. So I want to make sure that we have a good audio experience here. The lowest level of the 7 levels of reality in the Wizard Knight is Niflheim. Okay, Heim or Heimer is Old Norse. It means home, dwelling. If you know geography and I don't know, probably like Sweden and Norway, I think still have this. Heim is a suffix. You have Mannheim, I think Trondheim or something like that. Anyway, that's what that means. So this is the home of the Nifl. Now, we're not going to get into it a lot, but again, this is straight out of Old Norse mythology, and it's Old Norse. The next level up is Muspel. That's also straight out of Norse mythology, land of fire. And again, I'm not going to go into all of this, what it actually means, or describe it in too much detail, because I don't want to give anything away. The third level up is Elfreach. AEL, you'll see this a lot in AELF. It's basically elves. Later we have elf, ELF. But AELF, you'll see this is Norse, Old Norse, but it's also Old English. You'll actually see the AEL in prefix in early Anglo-Saxon kings. Check my work here because I didn't look that up, but I'm pretty positive that's exactly true. The next level up, we have Mythgarther, which, okay, so this I had to actually do a little studying on. This is the realm in which the majority of this book takes place. We have the word myth, and we have it's all one word, but we have Mythgarther. Garther is Old Norse for an enclosed space, like a garden or an enclosed square or rectangular space of some sort. So this means the enclosed space of myth, and that's where the majority of this book takes place. Something of note here. So we have two varieties of words which harken back to Old Norse. We have words that are straight up minus some of the, I don't know what you call diacritical marks or whatever, but more or less letter for letter the word from actual Norse mythology. And then we have words which are maybe a vowel changes here or there, or a consonant. Maybe he gets a little more clever, a little more tricky, and he changes a few things up, but you can see that it has its roots in Old Norse. And you have a word like this, which is similar to that, myth. I mean, he's saying that this is the enclosed space of myth, and this is where the majority of the story is going to take place. Now, one more level up, we have sky, which is basically just sky, like the sky above you, except it's SKAI here. It not only means sky in Old Norse and Old English, but it has the meaning of improvement, or it's just actually the word for better also. Now, this makes sense within the context of this story because while the majority of the story takes place in Mythgarther, Sky is almost kind of like the heaven for the people that are only experiencing the mythology of Old Norse, Old European pagan religions and languages. This is going to be important now to understand because the final two levels are two of the only, they're not the only, there's another one, stay tuned for the mystery, but they're two of the only proper place names and proper nouns that are names of humans or characters that really extend out from Old Norse and Old English in their root. So the second highest level of reality is called Kleos. Let's take a break here and think about something. Your fantasy readers, your fantasy enjoyers, you're going to have a basic understanding that Old Norse and medieval European settings and words are a mainstay in much of fantasy. Tolkien, for instance, relies upon Old Norse in a lot of his work. That's the most familiar big fantasy work. So this shouldn't come to you as a particular surprise that the setting and the words selected by Gene Wolfe are very, very, very much Old Norse. But here's the question. Here we get to a strange thing that happens. We only see, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, we only see one character that that, okay, I don't want to give it away. So let me say this a little more broadly. Kleos is the second most highest reality in this book. The highest reality is called Elysion. Now, Kleos is sounds very much like Greek, and if you look it up, it is Greek for glory, renown, or reputation, and it has the meaning of that which is heard, because it's that which is heard about someone. His kleos is glorious. It's kind of like renown. And then Elysion, the highest reality in Gene Wolfe's universe here, that sounds like Elysium to me. Fans of mythology will know about Elysium. But why? Why are these two highest realities in the book Greek in origin instead of Old Norse? I want you to think about that for a second and hold on to it, because I'm going to come back around to it. I need to bring out a couple more things though for you first. This book is complex, and there are a lot of characters in a lot of places. And what Gene Wolfe does, because he's pretty much a genius, I think, is he gives us at the very beginning of both volumes a list of the names of characters and of some places. Okay, that's rather extensive. It's 5-6 pages, whatever. He does something really smart, which is, because these things are so often boring in fantasy books when you see a big list of names, all that kind of stuff. You see this in complicated works. You'll see a list of characters in plays oftentimes where you need to know who is who. But what he does is brilliant. I don't want to get too much into this again, because this gets into the story itself. He writes these characters and place names as a helping aid to his brother Ben, who he is writing this letter to. And this entire work is in some ways a letter back to the reality of America, where he is from. And there is a great mystery about all this and how this works out, and that is going to have to be the subject of another video. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the very light portal fantasy part of that. Suffice it to say, I could go through every one of those names in there, and I can show you, here, this sounds like Old English or Old Norse. You can do that for yourself. It's not necessary. Here are a few that kind of fooled me, as I made a list of this just this evening. So I was preparing for the video, because I was really trying to see, is it really all Old Norse or not? And I went through the list, both in both books, and I picked out a few, and I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Forchetti, that's the name of a city. That sounds Italian to me. Forchetti, it sounds like some sort of cheese. Maybe the waiter brings the Forchetti cheese, and he does a little thing, and it's on your pasta, whatever. But this is one of those tricky ones where, just with the change of a couple of letters, the C to S and the taking out a T, Forsetti is actually the name of a Norse god, the god of justice. So mark that off the list. We're still in the realm of the Old Norse. Thiazi, I saw that and I thought, that doesn't ring Old Norse to me. It doesn't sound like Old Norse to me. And I'm no Old Norse expert. I'm not going to pretend like I am. But I can hear, I have an ear for the words. Again, they used to call me the wordy bird back when I was a youth. Thiazi, I said to myself, well, maybe that's not from Old Norse. Looked it up. Actually is just straight up a character from Norse mythology. Okay. Zio or Zio. There's a character, Z-I-O. I thought, that doesn't sound exactly Old Norse to me. I don't remember a lot of Z's in Old Norse. It is a old German name for the Norse god Tyr, Tyr. Wrong again, I said to myself. Then I was like, okay, let me look at the names of the common people, because there are names of supernatural entities, place names, royalty. But the common people usually just have one name and they're kind of short. So we have Ode, we have Vix, we have Pook. The commoners, they only get, a syllable or two. They don't get a lot of syllables, the commoners. Ode, I thought, well, it sounds kind of like French, to hear or something like that. No, it's wealth. Vix is Old German for fix. Puk means son of in Old Norse. So, foiled. I'm left with this problem. Well, we only have the only variants out of Old Norse are these two highest levels of reality. What does this mean? There is, however, one more mystery to this. Before we speculate on the mystery, our first mystery, why the two highest realities are Greek in origin as opposed to Old Norse, I give you Kulili. I don't have the answer to this, so feel free to give your opinion or the answer if you know it in the comments. Kulili, well, that does not sound Old Norse to me. It just does not. I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the character, which again won't cause a problem for you as you read the book. Because what is this? Why is this? Okay, no, first there is one possibility. The first possibility is I'm wrong and this is something to do with Old Norse and I'm just wrong. Okay. I don't think that's right though, because I actually spent some time on this one trying to figure it out. Kulili in the book here is the goddess of the realm of Elfreach, which I remember. I'm going to say it. You want me to give you some Old Norse? Old Norse. I'll give you the Old Norse. The Old Norse pronunciation. You want it? Here it is. Elfricha. You like that? That's how I'm going to say it from now on. Elfricha. Kulili is the goddess of Elfricha. Now, I hesitate to go too far into this, but she essentially molds and fashions her people, the elves, in the image of the peoples of Mythgar, which are her gods. Now, here's the thing. Each level below holds the common, not the common people, but the people of the above level as their gods in some sense. They must serve them, they worship them in some ways. Even though, and again, I'm going off track here, there is something weird about Niflheim. It's actually an extraordinarily great scene, really disturbing. It is an image of hell in essence, and it is a place of ice, not fire, unlike Muspel, the level above it, which I thought was interesting because that's Dante's vision of hell is also that cold place. A digression. Why this name? Why Kulili? We know who she is in the book. Where is the trail of clues that might lead us to where this word comes from, and what can it tell us about the story, about why? Every choice of words is, I truly believe, is conscious. This is why I love this. I really love this writer. There's a lot of fantasy where you see proper names in proper places, and it feels a little bit like they didn't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it, so they just came up with something that sounded vaguely Old Englishy, and they threw it in there. Not so with Wolfe. I am a believer. I'm a Wolfe believer on this. He makes conscious choices. So I look it up. Kulili. The closest thing I can get is a name associated with the Sumerian goddess. So then I look into Sumerian a little bit. And like I said, I'm a wordy bird, so I know a little bit about the languages. I like to understand the languages. What's this? What's that? And I think to myself, Sumerian is weird, though. Sumerian is weird because it's a language isolate. It's not actually related to later languages. This is complicated. This is a complicated and above my pay grade, but I'm going to try to explain it anyway. You would think that Akkadian and Babylonian and then even later Semitic languages would be related to Sumerian because Sumerian is the first civilization in the Fertile Crescent, possibly alongside Egypt, the first civilization in existence ever. But Sumerian is not. Now, cuneiform and the writing of cuneiform, that's different. That's the writing system. That's not the underlying language. You can take all types of different languages and write them in a writing system. We do it today. Many languages, French is written with the Roman alphabet, just like English is. They're different languages though, right? And they don't need to be, they don't need to function the same way. Sumerian is a language isolate, even though cuneiform, the writing system, was adopted by later languages in that area. So this is odd, right? Because if now here's a problem. Kulili is written Kulili, I think, in the book. Technically, the goddess's name in Sumerian is Kilili. Now, this is where, the Sumerian experts out there are going to have to help me out because I don't understand or know this exactly. I did a little bit of research, though. So, languages don't have to be written letter by letter, right? There are some languages that actually, how should I say it? The smallest unit in the language is not a letter, it's a consonant vowel sound. Now, if you're listening to this 20 minutes into it, you may be a nerd. You may be a word nerd and a fantasy nerd. So, adjacent to this, a lot of people are interested in Japanese culture, I've found, right? So, if you know anything about Japanese culture, you maybe know a little bit about the language. And so this is what I'm trying to explain to you. In Japan, you don't have letters, you have these blocks of consonant vowel sounds, right? So you have ka, ki, ke, ku. You have a consonant and the vowel. Sumerian apparently is the same way. They didn't have letters, discrete letters necessarily, even though there can be what would essentially be a discrete letter. Like in Japan, I think you have the in sound, but as a suffix. But again, I don't want to get too far into this, and I'm out of my league to some degree on this. So, why do I bring this up? Because ku and ki is a consonant vowel. Kilili is the Sumerian goddess's name. Kulili is the name in Gene Wolfe's work, but if there is a discrepancy or a misunderstanding in Sumerian, because I'm not sure if it's a perfectly understood and perfectly translated language, that difference between the U and the I may not matter, right? Okay, first, it may not matter. Second, and this is, now we're really dorking out on words, but my first thought was, okay, maybe there are many different languages, especially in the Near East, where they don't actually write the vowel down. Hebrew does this. I don't know that Arabic does this. I know there are other Semitic, I think Aramaic might have done this also. But anyway, point is, there can be some interpretation because in the written language, the vowel is left out. Well, Egyptian does this, I think, as well. Old Egyptian. I'm not talking about Arabic. I think the original Egyptian language did this also. So you don't actually know what the vowel is. You had to know from the word, from speaking it, and that can be extrapolated and figured out by linguists and this and that. So anyway, I thought maybe that's why there was this discrepancy between Kilili and Kulili. I racked my brain. I went and I looked. I didn't actually do that much research. I like to fly by the seat of my pants to these videos. I think it makes it more fun, even though I probably say dumb things. But why? Why would this one word, along with, and we're going to circle back around to our upper levels of reality and the discrepancy there, why would this be the one that is an isolate? Okay, here is where I'm going to, it's not a major plot point that's going to spoil anything, but here's my only guess. Okay, first off, the association of this goddess is very important. It is the goddess of chaos and dragons. Now, if you know things about mythology and religion, and particularly the mythology and religion, which is either worldwide, some people suggest, or at least that which came from this area, which we often call the Middle East, you might be familiar with a character called Marduk, who was a warrior who slayed Tiamat, which was a female goddess of chaos and in the form of a dragon. So this and Kulili in the book is a watery, somewhat serpentine, but even stranger than that. I'm actually not going to tell you what it is because it's really an interesting description. There are similarities between this. And so, because of those similarities, I am going to go with, for now, that this was a choice to reference that very, very old, very, very pre Norse idea. Pre Norse. What I mean is, this is one of the oldest ideas in human existence. There is a female goddess principle which is chaotic, dark, dragon formed, oftentimes associated with the water and the labyrinthine and subterranean, contrasted against a male principle of light and order. This is a huge mythological motif. So that's where I come down on this. And the use of, here's the other thing which is speculative, the use of the Sumerian name as opposed to, say, a later Babylonian name. I don't know if Tiamat is Babylonian. I think it is. It would be either Babylonian. I don't think it would be Assyrian. Probably Babylonian. Regardless, the fact that Sumerian is an isolate, a language isolate, the character Kulili in this book is actually isolated and different than some of the other realms. There's a very particular thing that hinges around that. So maybe he picked the Sumerian name as a language isolate because it reflected the unique situation of this character, who is reflected in the name itself. Now, okay, that's a lot. Let's go back up to the mystery of why Kleos and why Elysion. The majority of my speculation on this is going to have to wait for another video, but I'm going to give you what I think it is. Or I should say, the result of my speculation, if true, is going to lead into a broader discussion about the book and a particular theme in the book. So this is what I'm going to just guess for now. If our myth and if our setting and the world which the story takes place is, in essence, pagan or pre-Christian, reflected in the fact of so much of it is Norse. And when we think of the Norse, in some ways, we think that is almost kind of the epitome of that which is pagan in the Dark Ages or medieval Europe, as opposed to the pagan when we talk about Rome, pre-Christian Rome or Greece, okay? But to me, the use of Kleos and Elysion as Greek-derived names for the most high levels of reality indicates to me a kind of Christian idea. The Bible was written to some degree in Greek. There is a lot of theology which I can't get into because I don't know it well enough to explain it, that associates Christianity with Greek, not only in the sense that the word itself in some ways was preserved in Greek, it was preserved in other languages also, but that going even farther back into pagan Greece, the idea of Plato and a higher realm which is reflected on lower realms of existence, that in some sense is a pre-Christian idea, but points towards the Christian idea of a higher realm which is reflected down on earth. But then this gets really complicated because there's also, I mean, there's a Gnostic idea and a, what do you call it, Neoplatonist idea of different realms and all this kind of stuff. Out of my league right now. It's 5:30 in the morning. I'm not going to be able to explain it to you very well. What I would simply say is I think that Gene Wolfe was a Catholic, is my understanding. And I haven't read the New Sun books and all that. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to now after having read this. So don't put any spoilers for that in the comments for me. But I think Gene Wolfe, his Catholicism was probably important to him. I don't know. I haven't even read up that much on him because, again, I like to not do a lot of research and like reading about these authors and stuff until I've dealt with the work myself. But ultimately, I think that his use of Greek for the highest levels of reality was a pointing to the higher levels of reality being not the setting of Norse paganism, which is very integral to this entire book. It's a kind of way of not resolving the two, but it's a call to a religious idea that even in the pagan, there was always a pointing towards a Christian reality, even for those people who had not been exposed to the ideas. It's about as best I can get for you here. Now, I'm going to give you one more little bit of info that may act as a bulwark towards my point, and that is there is a character, and it's one of the few characters that is also not explicitly Norse or Old English in their name, and it's a simple name. It's Michael. Michael is an archangel in Christianity. Michael in this book comes from Kleos. Now, he's not portrayed as Michael the archangel, but there are similarities there. And I think that it's also interesting that Michael is one of the only other names besides Kulili or Kilili, which is outside of the realm of Old Norse and Old Germanic, Old English words. That was a lot. That was a lot. The word bird is exhausted. He flies high in the sky, Skai, and he's got to come down for a landing. Like, subscribe, leave me the comments, tell me where I'm wrong. I'm excited. I'm going to be reading some more Gene Wolfe when I can, and I'll bring some more videos if I can. I'm not sure. Justin A.W. Blair, signing out from the, I don't know what realm of reality I live in. It's 5:30 in the morning. I'm drinking tea. I'm on the tea. See you next time.